Aim steady, focus, breathe. Finger on the trigger. It isn't human anymore. Arma 2 is a military simulator developed by Bohemia Interactive, and one day while playing, a man named Dean Hall had the thought many others did during the late 2000s. I wonder what it would be like if I put zombies in it. Little did Dean know that this one idea would turn into one of, if not the most successful mod in history. Coupling what was at the time the cutting edge of realism in games with zombies at the peak of their popularity turned out to be a combination better than Oreos and chocolate.
So good and tasty?
Grabbing the gaming landscape instantly, with many people buying Arma 2 with the intent to only play it for the Dayz mod. From here, people would also start creating mods to the original Dayz, turning Dayz into this complete modception that the gaming industry had never seen before. Seeing the success, the company behind Arma, Bohemia Interactive, would bring Dean Hall into their fold. And with an engine made for their third game in the Arma franchise ready to go, they would start work on a new and improved standalone version of Dayz. But what made it so great? One of the main aspects for me at least was the incredibly unique form of social interactions the game brought.
Why do you look so fucking gay?
Thanks to its proximity voice chat, Dayz had a strange way of having probably some of the funniest moments of any game ever, leading it to also be a treasure trove of content, with some of my all-time favorite YouTubers like Fuba Bundy really showing off what he can do. On top of this, the game has also become famous for its ability to forge long-lasting friendships. I even have a personal experience of friendship that lasted several years that was born from this game. And while I haven't been able to find the source video, I know that there was one from one of the Fitz crew saying how he had met Swagger Souls while making a Dayz video. Of course though, with anything good comes cheap imitation. H1Z1, Unturned, Infestation, all blatant rips, trying to simply trick people into thinking that they're Dayz. And those are just the ones that weren't outright scams like War Z. On top of this, a lot of games that have since grown into their own, like Rust and Hurt World, started off as cheap early access writing attempts at a piece of Dayz's pie. And it worked! While some of the aforementioned games are no longer running, some of them are still up to this day, and even those who shut down gave their publishers stacks of cash for future projects. But I think there was one thing all of those projects missed, that for many was the reason Dayz was so fun. Dayz is kind of boring most of the time. It tries to accurately portray what living life in a real zombie apocalypse would be like, and that means that not every second is going to be full of excitement. Gathering supplies isn't this constant test of fate, it's just a lot of walking around and looking through buildings. Zombies are only really a threat in large crowds, so long as you don't go firing a gun in the middle of a town, you'll mostly be fine. But let's say you've been gathering loot for the past 30 minutes, maybe an hour or so, and suddenly you hear... Your heart immediately jumps into your throat. All it takes is 1 or 2 good shots and everything you've worked for is gone. This is the part where you run for cover. Dayz's combat is different to any other game in a way only people who've played can understand. The amount of time it takes to get worthwhile gear, coupled with how suddenly a fight can start and how quickly you can die, makes Dayz the only game I've ever played that causes a genuine fight or flight response from me in combat. After the release of Dayz standalone, it faced constant criticism from the community, as it was essentially a downgrade in almost every way when compared to the original mod. Stability was worse, features were lacking, and the modding that made the original Dayz so diverse was completely non-existent. The game saw more than its fair share of YouTube videos talking about how dead the game was at this time. This was only made worse by the fact that not long into development, the team had actually decided to switch the engine the game runs on. Long term, this would make the game run better, be easier to develop for, and allow for mod support, but it would end up taking the team multiple years to accomplish. During this time, the Dayz community were left with a barely functioning game that wasn't getting any updates. But with the new engine being shown off to players back in April of 2018, players once again became hopeful. All the way up until the game forced a full release in December of that year, when it clearly just wasn't ready. Dayz nowadays is actually doing pretty well for itself. Most of its issues have long been sorted out, it's currently got the most active players it's ever had by a large margin, and it's still getting frequent updates. The fantasy of being in the apocalypse is one I'm sure we've all thought about, but I think Dayz shows us that maybe we were better off before. For now though, I think I'm done struggling. it's time to go out.